Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back again for our second part here of our TUFFY'S team review of the 2008 NC State football team. If you haven't checked out part one yet, make sure to go back and do that first and foremost as we go through the first four games, which we really kind of dive a lot through. As again, there's a lot to unpack in those first four games, which are a lot of back and forth, like Greg was saying earlier. So make sure to go check that out first and then come right back here. But with that being said, we left off here. NC State is 2-2. Heading to a game against South Florida Bulls, who at this time were 5-0, 3-0 on the road, and number 13 team in the country. And this team ended up going on one of the craziest stretches to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country at a point late in the game, late in the season here. Now, the only thing which I really want to talk about, first of all, besides the fact we got blown out of our own house 41-10, was Harrison Beck played the entire game. And so I tried to do some research because obviously that was, odd because Russell Wilson definitely started the whole game for ECU. So I'm wondering, were you able to find anything? Did he get injured? Or?
Yeah, it has to be some kind of injury thing because we all know Russell Wilson's character. I'm sure he didn't get suspended for any kind of stupid thing. It had to have been some kind of injury. Now, we did talk that he had that concussion the beginning of the season, so I'm not sure. I tried to find the game footage. I found it right before we went on the air, so I wasn't able to tune in and get the reasoning. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and one thing too, replace the injured Russell Wilson. There we go. Yeah, Harrison Beck replaced the injured Russell Wilson. There it is. But yeah,
so maybe he played. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say 9 of 32 for 239 yards and 3 interceptions. And apparently it also started to downpour midway through the first half, which led to some of the ugly stats that NC State had. So, actually at halftime, NC State had negative 33 yards rushing and 63 yards total of offense at halftime. That's disgusting. Go ahead.
Yeah, Florida State. Good news. South Florida's quarterback was Matt Groth, who is one of their better quarterbacks from their history. He's probably top 5, maybe even top 3. So this wasn't, again, we talked about it. This wasn't a slouch of a team by any stretch of the imagination. You can't just say, oh, it was South Florida. How did you end up getting blown out? This was a team that Jim Leavitt had a great defense. This is a defensive guru that their teams were really good. Really good. Who knows how good they could have ended up being. Their coach ends up getting fired for being a little rough on some of his players. They had a kind of a bad culture, but this was a team that was dominant. Really dominant.
Yeah. Well, and especially too, even offensively, to have 275 yards passing and 245 yards rushing.
Yeah. Very balanced.
Very balanced team. And no wonder they're one of the top 3 teams in the country, once the season, was able to run out. But another guy that we, didn't even talk about as well, which I got to bring up if you're talking about 2008, Willie Young. Is another guy that I feel like is a guy that doesn't get talked about on an all-time list, but I would definitely say he's easily in that conversation of an all-time list.
Yeah,
even with as strong of a defensive line class as NC State has had over the years, between the list goes on between Tank Tyler, Mario Williams, Bradley Chubb, but I would easily still say Willie Young is in that conversation.
Yeah, and this is also a team that had Michael Allen Cash, though he did see some limited time because he had some knee surgery. But again, he was our best returning defensive lineman, and this was a team that had talent. It was just a very young talent that just hasn't really, other than Willie Young and Nate Irving. I think Nate Irving was like a sophomore, junior that year, and Michael Allen Clark, I think, was like a sophomore, junior. So, but again, this is a team that you could start to see in the wins that we were beating, because we beat some top 25 teams during the season. But anyway, we'll get into those games.
Exactly. So now let's move on over to Boston College here, and this is one that was this was a kind of like a so close here on with Boston College getting a touchdown to win the game. 22 seconds left in the game. Getting a rushing touchdown, but 38-31 loss to a 4-1 Boston College team that ended up being the Atlantic Coast representative.
The Atlantic Division.
So, I'm sure the Atlantic division, not coast.
Yeah,
Coast.
I know. Yeah, you're good.
Rep. So I mean, that's not necessarily a bad loss for sure. And I mean, dude, holy smokes, Boston College Chris Crane had 428 yards passing.
Yeah,
holy smokes.
Yeah, this isn't Matt Ryan. This is,
Chris Crane.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
But he was also the leading rusher. Like he was the entire Boston College offense that game.
Yep. He ran for 42 yards that game. So.
And the only head scratcher for this game, which I'm curious if there was injury to Andre Brown, but only had 3 carries for 5 yards.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there had to have been some kind of injury. There's no way you don't put the ball in Andre's hands at least 15, 20 times a game.
No.
So I'm assuming, so that definitely hurts as well. But I mean, still getting 31 points up on the board should be enough, for most teams. And so to me, it just seems like more of an off day from the NC State defense to give up 38 points to Chris Crane from Boston College.
Yeah, this is a defense that ended up giving up 26 points a game, which ranks 65th in the NCAA out of 119 teams. So kind of right in the middle, but not good. Not good as a whole. No. Yeah, because there were some lopsided ones, right? We talked about the 34-0, the 41-10. This is a team that showed a propensity to give up big plays and lots of points.
Absolutely. All right, so let's jump on over to the Florida State game as well. We're kind of getting through this unfortunate losing stretch here.
Yeah, remember we talked about it, right? So we talked about we go into a 4-game losing streak, and so this will be number 3 of the 4-game losing streak. So, and this is the game that I was confused about earlier when I talked about it in the first episode. This is the game we were up 17-16 going into the fourth quarter. So, but go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. Now, so, for this game, so Christian Ponder for Florida State, who is a guy that is famous for another moment in NC State's fans' eyes, but that hasn't come until 2010. But I mean, a guy who was young, I think only a sophomore at this point. But, ended up being a guy that was a 3-4 year starter for Florida State. So definitely no scraps whatsoever, 23-35, 254 yards passing for a touchdown, no interceptions. But really looking at the Florida State roster in terms of who was involved, there's no names that really kind of stand out to me. So to me, it's just, I don't know, not necessarily. It's from looking at the names, I'm like, it can be necessarily one of Florida State's more stronger teams. But at this point, they were 4-1 heading into this game. So,
but they also finished the season like I think they were like, I said they were the highest ranked team. I'm sorry, they were 21st at the end of the season, finishing 9-4, 5-3 in the conference. So just an average team, like you said. No, not the dominant performances in the players that we were accustomed to seeing, especially early on in having to play them in the ACC.
But the funny thing is, they actually ended up the number 21 team in the country at the end of the season too. So, so obviously they, in that 9-4 overall record they had, they must have pulled off some pretty big wins. Which, I mean, with the sophomore Christian Ponder and with a bunch of guys that don't necessarily stand out to me, not necessarily saying that they're not good, but just saying that more likely that means there's not any all-stars on this team, then, hats off to, and also too, because that's another thing too. This is kind of obviously in the back end of the Bobby Bowden years as well. When God, what's the coach's name that
Jimbo
is now Texas A&M? Jimbo. Where Jimbo really kind of started to be the head coach, but I think just Bowden has having a little issues moving away. Which, hey, listen. He did have bad teams, it's not like, he was, and he wasn't going to get forced out, but anyway.
Yeah. Looking at their season, nothing really jumps off the plate. They got trounced by, or you like to say donkey stomped by Florida, 45-15, but just an average season. Nothing jumps off. They did have a nice bowl win at the end of the season against Wisconsin, but that was about it.
So the one thing which I will say from the NC State side, once again, is that Owen Spencer in this game was the leading receiver, 3 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. So, like, I'm telling you, Owen Spencer definitely way underrated when it comes to all-time wide receivers in NC State for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned Willie Young. He had 2 sacks in this game. So really great defensive effort by him. 10 tackles and 2 sacks.
Yeah. I mean, it just seemed like to me. It seems like to me, looking at the stats here. I mean,
This game we should have won.
1 for 9 on third down for NC State. 13-25 passing, so not bad there. But 7 penalties, 7 for 70 yards, no turnovers. So that's what I'm saying. It was just, I think, just third down in efficiency, and then we were 0 for 2 on fourth down. So just efficiency. I think that's what killed us this game.
And then one of your Carolina Panther greats, Graham Gano, hit some long field goals in that game. He had a 44 and a 53.
State?
Yeah, Florida State.
Oh, cool. I didn't even went to Florida State. Cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of your difference there. Again, like I said, we were up 17-16 going in the fourth quarter, and they outscored us 13-7. So
to win it, which sucks. But now we're sitting at 2-5 on the season, 0-3 in the conference, and unfortunately, this next game.
I think, are we already calling for Tom O'Brien's head at this point? I would probably guess.
I would assume so, especially in today. If it was in today's day and age of social media, absolutely, no doubt about it. Because definitely a couple of bad losses, but also too, you would easily come back and say, once again, it is a very young team. So, and then we also just pulled off a huge, because again, we didn't know what we know now.
Yeah.
Where this is kind of the story of Tom O'Brien, where he's very inconsistent. And so at the time we're saying, well, we just beat number 15, ECU, like come on. So so anyway, so then we go to Maryland and probably freeze our butts off, I'd assume.
It's so early. It's probably not that bad. It's
in October.
Yeah. So living up here in Northern Virginia, I'm only an hour away from College Park. Yeah, you're right. It could be warm or it could be cold. It's just, you don't know. But I
don't know. But anyways, so this game, luckily enough, I mean, it starts all NC State for the most part. Andre Brown comes out, smoking. Russell Wilson for most of the game is solid. Again, 18 for 28, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So, not crazy in terms of making an impact, but I mean, he's effective. And I mean, so Andre Brown, 15 rushes for 56 yards and a touchdown. The thing that still definitely stands out to me, which is, something which I'm sure that O'Brien heading into 2009 had to have a conversation with Russell about, was once again, this game, Russell had 13 rushing attempts, which, I mean, you definitely got to draw that back. I know that there's a little bit of, maybe excitement, not necessarily composed legs there from Russell Wilson, but you can't have 13 rushes a game from a quarterback and expect him to have longevity. So, but 155 yards total between Jamel Eugene, Russell Wilson, Andre Brown. And then as soon as I talk about Owen Spencer, he doesn't have a single catch in this game. But,
right. Again, this is another game where we're right there at the end, and they kick a 20-yard field goal to win it basically as time expires.
Yeah,
it's a theme. Really, with the exception of the South Carolina and the USF and Clemson to a degree, we were in like all of these games. I mean, you could see that again. If this was the 09-010 team, you probably end up winning these games because it's just as a matter of learning how to finish games. And this is a team that, because of their immaturity, not because of being a lot of underclassmen, you're going to see them not being able to finish games at the end of the games.
Yeah. Now the one thing which I gotta take a look at here is the leading receiver from Maryland was Dan Gronkowski, who I believe,
he's part of the brother Gronkowskis.
So I mean that's a cool name to have in your books if you can have a Gronkowski on your crew. So that's cool. But I mean, again, for Maryland, I mean, they threw 9 of 20 for 126 yards and a touchdown. I mean, so it was just a very blech game. I mean, from both sides. And once again, just like you said, just Maryland was able to get the last say and win this game. So and very frustrating.
Again, this is a team where you had Dave Meggett's son, Davin Meggett, on the team. He was a running back on that team. The one thing we can always say is it always felt like Maryland was just like that pest, that little pesky like fly that was all you just wanted to flick it off you, and they just always gave us a hard time when they were in the ACC. Like
100%.
always, it just felt that way. Like, it kind of reminds me, like I feel like Wake has taken Maryland's spot. You know what I mean? As far as that pesky little, just like you just can't get rid of it. It's just a fungus that just keeps coming back.
Yeah, 100%. I could not agree with you more.
Yeah.
But now let's switch over here and talk a little bit more of exciting stuff here. So now we go.
Let's
go
win some games. Let's go win some games.
Yeah, exactly. Finally get that bump off the back here, and again get a 27-17 win at Duke, which is awesome for sure. I think that's actually the last time we beat Duke at Duke. Was in 2008, which I mean we only played them at Duke one other time,
right? Because that's when we were playing them once every 7 years,
correct?
At their facility.
So, but that'll change. So looking forward to
this
that.
year. We have a chance to beat them there.
That's right. So, but for this game, so Russell Wilson 13-25, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Once again, just effective. Russell Wilson's not throwing the lights out, but he's effective. 6 rushes for 16 yards.
But he's not giving the ball over, right? And so that's the key. You don't need to go throw for 400 yards and run for 100 when you're not giving the ball up. You're not giving them the opportunity most times on a shorter field with the turnovers. And so when you don't do that, you give your ball club a great chance to win. And the stats, like we talked about earlier, the stats bear that out with 17 touchdowns and only 1 interception. And that interception was, I think, at the Maryland game, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah, and the other thing which I want to talk about just real quick here is I see Daryl Davis's name for the first time here, and he could have been effective earlier, but I just didn't notice it until now. But would you say that, man, like thinking back on it, having Jarvis Williams, T.J. Graham, Owen Spencer, Darrell Davis, and George Bryan, like that's a heck of a, and because you had that for the next 3 years, like dude, man, that is definitely a what if for sure because. Like I would be thrilled with that wide receiver core any other time, and especially adding George Bryan on top of it. So man, definitely a swing and a miss having all those guys and Russell Wilson playing together for 3 years. Yeah, and I think that maybe that just goes back to your offensive scheming, right? Just not being able to figure a way out to get your playmakers the ball more because it definitely felt like you said, a swing and a miss with like the TJ Grahams and the Owen Spencers. You would have thought that offense would have been, and the other names that you mentioned, that would be a high flying, high profile offense, and it didn't feel like that. It felt like a slow grind. It didn't feel like we went after the big play. It was just kind of a methodical offense, just working your way up and down the field. I don't know. Like if you give me that team with Robert and I's offense, I would hate to see or Norm Chow like when Phillip Rivers was here. I feel like that could have been a pretty explosive offense. So, but again, I think it goes back to Tom O'Brien's philosophy. Like that's just not his style. Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flightland's Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout Eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flightland's Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flightland's Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flightlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. No, it's not. Well, and again, it goes back to it. Again, we can talk about this till we're blue in the face about his decision about picking Mike Glennon over Russell Wilson, and that was definitely a piece of the reasoning. Was just you're looking at Mike Glennon as a Matt Ryan 2.0, who he just took as a top 10 team and at one point number 1 team in the country at Boston College, and so you're just like, are you really going to pass up 2 years of Mike Glennon for 1 year of Russell Wilson after you lose a lot of your starters? It's like. But, again, hindsight's always 2020. But, so not really much here to say besides, Duke had Thaddeus Lewis, who had a ridiculous game, 317 passing yards with 2 touchdowns, 41 yards rushing. He was Duke this game. He was Duke, was enough.
That seemed to be the theme throughout his time at Duke again, right? Like he was the offense for a lot of –
was the –
Yep.
Exactly. Yep. So now let's move on here to Wake Forest here. Again, that pest here. And especially another pest here in Riley Skinner from Wake Forest, man. I just saw that name. Like,
I did too. I was like,
Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Riley Skinner. Way too all too famous for sure. And luckily enough, coming out on the strong end, 21-17, a great defensive effort. At NC State, low scoring game from both ends, but I'm looking at the play-by-play here, and State scored in the fourth quarter, 10-17 left in the game, and then
just locked them down.
Two stops and then a turnover on downs finished the game. So again, this is all defense. Finally stepped up to the plate and won a game for us.
I feel like this might have been the game my dad and I went to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think this was like my dad's first game in like a long time coming back to state. I want to say it was because like the time frame looks familiar. I'll have to ask him later, but I'm pretty sure my dad still has this game on the DVR.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Which the last thing I want to mention about this game is that the attendance, it says, was at 99% at Carter Finley. It was 99% full, which once again, hats off. Again, it goes back to NC State fans are the most loyal out there. The fact that we were 3-6 heading into this game, and yet we still were basically sold out for this game against the top 25 team in the country in Wake Forest. So huge hats off there. But now let's get some more fun. Probably between ECU and this game, it's pretty neck and neck. But NC State goes to number 22 UNC and blows them out of their own house, 41-10. And I think this is kind of like but I would say between this game and the Miami game, it's kind of like the whipped cream on top of the cupcake. It's like I think you think about the coming out game for Russell Wilson's ECU, but then you look at those two games and you're like, yeah, no, that's when we really start to see the Russell Wilson we've grown to love.
Yeah, here's something else before we get into this. Let's not forget that we needed every game we could get to just get bowl eligible, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So this is a team that their backs are against the wall if they want to play that extra game of the season, and then you're going to UNC, who's a top 25 team. So it's not looking good on paper that you're going to be able to get a win and stay bowl eligible contention.
Absolutely. So, and again, this is another great time where TJ Yates is a starting quarterback who goes 0-4 against NC State. So love that. And also too, because UNC had Keem Nicks as well, who again is one of the all-time greats for UNC as well. So definitely swinging the miss for them. But hey, I love it. I mean, man, looking at this list here, there was 9 different receivers for NC State. So many guys were involved in this game.
Yeah, the Owen Spencers, TJ Graham's getting some love here.
Jamel Eugene got 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So again, just chef's kiss, beautiful game. Loved every minute of it. It was at that game, and it was awesome.
Here's the thing: UNC had 4 fumbles and they lost 3 of them.
Yeah. Well, and even the better part is that in the second half alone, NC State outscored UNC 31-7. That's crazy. So, we just came out of control of that puppy from the get-go and never looked back. So, love that game. Enjoyed it. We'll watch it from time to time if I ever want to get a smile on my face.
Yeah. It's usually on my summer playlist, getting me ready for the upcoming football season. So I'm sure, like you said, it'll probably get popped up on the YouTube here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, and especially for me, when we're doing these, countdowns, clips, the 2008 UNC game will eventually make its way on there for sure. But just trying to wait till we get a little closer.
Is that so that's not the one where we just got quote tweeted the other day by Russell? Because I know it was a UNC game, wasn't it?
That was 2010.
2010. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so now let's move on to Miami here, which was this the last time we beat Miami ever?
I can't remember a Miami win since then, so it's
I agree.
Very conceivable. I know we've played them at least 2 or 3 more times since then.
Yeah, we got blown out in 2011, and then
that was the College Game Day, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
No,
was it? No.
I know it was a Miami game that
2011.
I know
you're thinking of College Game Day during Phillip Rivers years.
Was that when it was back that far?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. It was
gosh.
Yeah. No, 2000 because it was at Miami, and that was when David Amerson got cooked that entire game, and it was rough to watch.
No, we had College Game Day at State against Miami.
Yeah, 2004.
Was that okay? 2004. Phillip was still there then. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, that was all too famous. But
Yeah, because that was like
so then
Devin Hester.
But this is another game where Russell Wilson just started to look like Russell Wilson. 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for 58 yards and a touchdown. Trevor Graham had 63 yards receiving. Just again, an overall dominant game between Andre Brown too. Again, 12 for 93 and a touchdown. Jamel Eugene 14 for 66.
Yeah.
So I mean, just an overall, just ground and pound for NC State. Yeah. So. And it was a rainy day too. It was kind of a gross day. I still remember that game. And but just like you said, backs were up against the wall. Mm-hmm. We had to get this game to get bowl eligible, and we found a way to do it. 38-28.
Yeah, and you look at their quarterback Ja'Cory Harris and Robert Marv. Again, not the cream of Miami quarterback classes, right? Like all the names that go through Miami, and those aren't the two of the ones that you think of, and these were definitely Miami's lean years. So we definitely took advantage of them. No, they were ranked 23 at the time when we beat them, according to this. So, so there's another top 25 team that we won. So I think we end up going like 3-1, 4-1 against top 25 teams. So that's not bad when you look at it, how the season went, what the ebbs and flows of it.
But hindsight 2020, that's definitely the story of Tom O'Brien, no doubt about it. So,
well, I mean, how many games did we talk about where we lost in the last minute? I think it was at least 3. So
at least,
so we
frustrating.
And then on the reverse, I think we only won 1 in overtime. So in those 1-score games, we were not very good.
No, we weren't. So, but now let's wrap it up here at the Papa John's Bowl in
PJ Bowl
in Birmingham, Alabama. For the Papa John's Bowl, and
another bowl that doesn't exist. Rest in peace.
I know, right? To me, this is just. I remember watching this game on TV, being super frustrated because just again a rough, not the best day for Russell Wilson.
Well, he ends up getting injured and gets knocked out of the game because we had the game in control until he got knocked out.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh! Like I'm looking at the stats now because we were up 17-6 in the first half.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, no, I'm getting this game confused in my head.
Yeah, no, we were. Yeah. Russell was doing his thing. It was just like they didn't look like they belonged there. It looked like, okay, we're going to end up this season winning 5 games, and we're going to take this into the next season in 2009, and then Russell gets hurt. But go ahead.
Now I remember why I was frustrated because Russell Wilson got knocked out. Mm-hmm. They brought Harrison Beck in, who sucked. He was terrible, 0 for 4 and 1 interception. Yep. And then they brought in the ghost of Daniel Evans to try and rally, get NC State that win. In his last game in NC State uniform.
Yep.
And 5 for 12 for 82 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. So to me, it was just kind of an unfortunate thing that I think that once Russell got knocked out, it was just game over from there.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a game where, we're up. Rutgers scores, 13 points. We only are able to score 6. They kicked 2 field goals at the end of the game with 8 minutes and 40, and then one with less than a minute left. Again, another, just a collapse on the defense where we had a game in control and we just couldn't. We NC State stuffed it. So
absolutely. Well, but if there is 2 positives, first thing which I'll say is I love that Andre Brown ended his in-state career with the touchdown, so that's awesome. But man, Jarvis Williams, dude, had 7 catches for 126 yards receiving. That's unbelievable.
But we had 4 turnovers.
Back again. I know.
You're not going to win a ball game when you have 4 turnovers. I'm sorry.
Well, and 3 of them being picks, and I would bet that all 3 of those picks were in the second half. If I had to bet.
Probably, yeah. I mean, they end up scoring 23 points in the second half. I mean, you're up 17-6 at the half.
Oh, I'll even do you one better. Those 3 interceptions were in the.
Go ahead.
So it was the last 4 drives for NC State were interception, passing touchdown, interception. So
there you go.
Yeah, there it was. So
that'll be that's the way to put the cherry on the top at the end of your season.
Yeah, no, 100%. So unfortunate way to end. What was a great finish and also a solid start even too, to the season. You finally found that quarterback in Russell Wilson, who was able to pull off a big win against, number 15 ECU and then went through a rough stretch. You ended on the right note and were able to get to a bowl game, that's crazy to think about. You were literally 2 and 6.
2 and 6.
You had to win out to go to a bowl game and you did. and then you lose to Rutgers. It's like, oh, come on. So, yeah, definitely.
Rutgers' only claim to fame to football is they invented college football. That's the only thing that people know Rutgers for.
Yeah, that and the guy. Oh my gosh, the guy who famously went down a kickoff and broke his spinal cord.
Yeah,
like he was like one
Eric
of the first.
LaGrange.
Eric LaGrange. Yep. The famous case is widely known, has been talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I agree. Yeah. So, all right. So with that being said, I think we'll finally wrap this baby up here. As we finally have gotten through this 2008 season here. So again, next Tuffy Talk review, Tuffy Talk team review. We'll do 2014 season, and then we'll come back. Maybe talk about 2009. And talk about the frustrations there, because there's definitely a lot to unpack there, because that season couldn't have been just bad because of everything that happened with Nate Irving. So definitely want to kind of dive into that. But with that being said, though, again, for our end, if you wouldn't mind, hit that subscribe button again, hit that notification bell. If you enjoyed this conversation, you want more of these conversations, I apologize, hit that like button and give us a follow. Tuffy Talk now on Twitter or Instagram. Also, make sure to go follow us on TikTok now too, as we are on TikTok now. Make sure to go and do that. Greg, anything last sense to mention about this team 2008?
No, just I guess it just becomes that we end up getting excited because we could see what happens, and then now knowing what we know, we were yet let down again for 2009 and then even 2010. Mm-hmm. So this is the team that could have been, right, or the beginning of what could have been.
100%. Yeah. So, all right, y'all. Well, thank you so much again for tuning in with us. We will see you all soon. As always, go Pack, y'all.